Hey guys, hopefully you're now ready for video number 4 in the process of making your passive speaker. If that's the case, then you're ready to drill some holes with the drill press. That's to cut out the holes for this middle section and for the front section. And to do that, you'll need to have the proper bit. You'll notice that this particular bit is a Forstner bit that fits the correct diameter of the hole that I have chosen. You may need a different size bit. For me, I'm using a 2-inch bit. And I have my drill press set up right now with a sacrificial table, meaning there's a wooden table down below that's a scrap piece. I can drill into this without damaging anything. I don't want to drill into metal underneath my project. And I have a fence up against the back of the table that is screwed into it as part of the table. That is to help from the project being grabbed out of your hand and spun around. So as I'm drilling down with the bit, if it grabs the piece of wood and wants to spin it, this will help make it easier for you to control it. I'm also going to clamp this down, which I will show you in a bit. Before we get to that, the next step is to go over the proper use of the drill press as a whole, and we need to talk about all of its safety rules. So to do that, I'm going to grab the drill press quiz. We've got 15 points here that we need to go over, and I'm going to read them one by one for you. Let's get going. So if you got your quiz ready to go, you can fill out the answers as we go through this. Question number 1. You should already know the answer to this, but long hair, jewelry, hoodie cords, or loose clothing should be tied back or tucked in to prevent getting caught in moving parts. So right now, it's cold out here. I've got long sleeves on. But really, if we're working on machines, long sleeves can get caught in things. So really what I need to do is I need to roll up my sleeves to at least my elbows, okay, so that I am not going to get them caught in anything. That's really important. If you're wearing a watch that's dangly or important, like it's fancy, it's metal, you don't want to get scratched up, I would say take your watch off. This is very tight fitting to my wrist. I'm not worried about this. So, next, number 2. Be sure all guards are in place and working properly before each use. Belts and pulleys should be covered and protected while the drill press is on to prevent caught-in hazards. That is a technical OSHA term, caught in. So if you're caught in between something, your hand is caught in between something else. You'll notice, if we pan up a little bit, there's a cover above this thing. Let's see if you can kind of see this if I tilt you back a little bit. This cover up here is actually covering all the pulleys. There's a motor in the very back, and it's facing up, and it's connected to a pulley, which has a belt that goes all the way around to a pulley up here, and then that drives the center section, which turns the bit. So that's the basic workings of this. This one's kind of fancy and very powerful because this is designed to do metal and woodworking. You'll see one like this in the shop. I always like having a drill press like this for a lot of reasons. You'll see as I move the table around, table adjustments are much easier on an end mill type drill press. However, there's not as much capacity height-wise. So a woodworking drill press that is a standard drill press or a less expensive can be better for tall projects. They have different applications, which is why we'll have each type in the shop. So this is covered. All the guards are in good place. We're going to be good to go. The other thing you want to make sure of, and I always like to do this, is my chuck key. Let's bring it back down here. My chuck key, which is what you use to tighten the drills or the bits in the chuck, is on this chain. And that's so that if I forget it in here, which hopefully you never forget your chuck key, but if you do, this is not going to come flying at me like a piece of metal shrapnel. Okay, this is a good way to remind me to take it out. It's also a way not to lose it. So usually we'll have one like this in the shop that's attached to a chain, and I might have a clip on it that you need to clip to your belt. That way you don't lose it when you check it out. You'll probably have to turn in something like an ID to get it. So let's see. Number 3. Secure the workpiece with a clamp or other appropriate fixture. We're going to do that. So let's just pretend like this is the right place we want our part, because we're going to drill out these little holes here. I need to put a clamp on here. So I'll take a piece of scrap wood, like this old beat up push stick. I'll put it against the table, somewhere where I can clamp, and I will clamp this down. Now, I want you to be careful of using a clamp like this. If I'm working down here, this can be an eye hazard. You don't see this, it could poke you. So you really want to try and put a clamp on in the other direction if I can't reach it, this might not be the right clamp for you. There's a lot of different style clamps that you can use. A vice grip style clamp might be better. Let me demonstrate. So, get one down here. All right, got it. This is a vice grip style clamp. So what you'll have to do is loosen it as you're clamping down until you have that last ½ inch of squeeze. Okay, now I feel like I could probably squeeze it and make it work. That's where you want it. It'll be nice and tight. It'll hold. You can do a shake test on your part. It's not going anywhere. And this is not going to accidentally poke me. There's nothing that I can lean into, okay? This is not going to hurt me. So to loosen this thing, when it's clamped down, you squeeze this little back area here and it'll help relieve the lever. That's probably the ideal for this application. You might need a different type of clamp for your application because there's hundreds of different clamp applications. You might need a deep jaw clamp that's got like a deeper throat to it. You might need one that's, I don't know, it depends what you get into. We got a clamp closet, you can go check it out. Anyway, so let's look at the next one. Number 4 says do not use bits with screw tips. These bits will pull the workpiece up from the table out of your clamp or your hand, okay, and start spinning, causing a serious risk of injury. Everybody will know if you do this because you'll probably scream, stuff will get thrown, stuff will break. Just don't do this. Let me explain what this is. So, if you have a bit like this, let's see if you can see the tip on this thing. The tip is actually spiraled like a screw. It's designed when you're using a hand drill to pull itself in through the wood. That way you don't have to push as hard. That's great when you're using hand tools. But if you're using a machine like this, you want to be able to control how far you go in and be able to pull back out. This is not the right kind of bit. So you'll notice the bit that we're going to use, this one, the tip on it, let's see if that will focus, right there. This tip does not have any type of screw to it. It's just a sharp edge. Okay? That's what you want on a drill press. So typically you're going to see bits like these, twist bits, brad points. These are okay on a drill press. This is what you want to use with a drill press. Alright, so next question, number 5. Be sure the chuck is tightly secured to the spindle and the quill. And so there's quill, Q-U-I-L-L. Quill lock is unlocked, allowing the chuck to go up and down before drilling. So you'll notice right now I can operate this and this is moving up and down. Well, if I want this to stay down, let's say I'm measuring something, I can tighten this lock right here by turning this tight. Now it doesn't go up and down. You do not want to force that friction, that lock. You want to loosen this so the drill press moves easily before you start to use it, okay? There are times when you want to use that. I will probably use it to set this up, but then you need to loosen it. So make sure that's loose. That's the quill lock. Number 6, drill bits must be tightened securely in the drill chuck. This is the chuck part right here. This is the clamp that holds the bits. It's called the chuck. Okay? Let's see if we get a little zoom in on that. This right here, that is the chuck. Okay, this is an old-fashioned Jacobs chuck, and these little holes here are where the tip of the key goes to turn this thing. And as you turn this thing this way or this way, you'll see these little jaws go in or out, and that's what clamps down on the bit. All right, next question, number 7. Always remove all chuck keys or wrenches before powering a drill or drill press. If not removed, they can be thrown at a high velocity, causing serious injury. Yeah, when this thing starts spinning really fast, if you got something sitting there, eventually your physics class is going to really come into play, and you're going to learn about that force when something starts turning around, that circumference type situation. They call it centrifugal force, and that thing comes loose and it comes shooting at you. Hopefully not. Hopefully it goes somewhere else if you forgot it, but hopefully you don't forget it and we don't have to worry about it. That's why we have it chained. Don't test it, by the way. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Because then you got to buy me some new parts. That's dangerous. You don't want to hurt yourself either. Okay. That's why you want to work with a buddy if you can, so someone remembers this stuff. Always have a second set of eyes if you can. Let's see. Number 8. Always check the drill press speed to match the bit size you are using. The bit size. So here I'm going to use a 2-inch. That's the diameter of this bit from side to side. That diameter of this Forstner bit. And there's a lot of ways to do that. In my tool cabinet, I keep a chart that looks like this. It is from Wood Magazine back in the day. It's a great chart, and it has all the different drill bits. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over here. You can see this type of bit here. They call this a multi-spur bit here, and this one's the Forstner bit. We're using a Forstner bit. They're a little bit different. So this Forstner bit, if you come down here and look on the chart, Forstner bits, you can go to the diameter, 1 3/8 to 2-inch. Should be 500 with softwood rotations per minute. Hardwood 250, even slower, okay? So you want this bit to turn really slow. Let's make sure we adjust it properly. When we turn this thing on, that's really fast. I will have to open the gearbox up here, move the belts to slow this way down. Okay, let's look at the next question. Always check the drill press speed. We did that one, sorry. Number 9. Never reach around or under the working head or grab the chuck to stop the drill press. This can result in a serious injury. Yeah, your hand is not good for a break. You do not want to do that. That would be very dangerous. Number 10. Don't force the drill press bit or the drill bit. If the drill is not wanting to drill, don't force it with tons and tons of pressure. You want to either get a different bit that's properly cutting, or maybe there's something wrong, okay? So let me know. I mean, it's possible you can see this little thing right here. This is called a stop. And maybe that stop is set up which prevents you from going any lower. So there's a reason that you're having to work really hard at it. Something is wrong. Get a second set of eyes, come ask me or something, and we'll figure it out. Okay, number 11. As you get close to breaking through the bottom of the workpiece, reduce the pressure and allow the bit to pass through the hole easily. Set a piece of scrap wood under your workpiece to reduce splintering and to protect the tip of the bit, or the bit tip. We're wanting to reduce pressure here. So what that's saying is as you're drilling through, right as you can see that this is getting close to the end, you don't want to push down with the same force, because as you're using the force to get through this, you might need a little bit more. But when you get to the end, you want to lighten up so go through really slow with control. That way you don't splinter out. You don't push through. You don't want splinters on the bottom side. And if you have this tied against a piece of wood that's scrap, it'll help support those fibers so they don't get blown out on the bottom as you enter through. Okay, number 12. If the bit binds in the workpiece or catches the work causing it to revolve, that's not good. Turn off the drill press immediately. So if your workpiece, let's say you're drilling this and you didn't clamp it down, and you're holding it by hand, all of a sudden it starts spinning around really fast, don't try and catch it with your hand. Reach up here and turn this thing off really quick, or hit the off button if you have a red off button. Whatever you got to do, turn the thing off and get out of the way. Okay? If you think it's going to go flying and you need to just get away from it, get away from it. And someone else can do it. If I have to, I can go over to the circuit panel or the service panel, and I can turn it off at the panel, which is on the other side of the shop, to kill the power. So that's really important that we make sure that you know if something goes wrong, what are you going to do? What's your emergency exit strategy? James Bond's always got a backdoor strategy. All right, number 12. If the bit binds and the workpiece catches, we were going through that. Let me finish this. Blah, 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 and then unplug the tool, then free the bit from the workpiece. Do not try to free a jammed bit by starting and stopping the tool. So if for some reason this is stuck on the bit, you probably need to disconnect the power so you can work in here, get your hands in here and work this thing off. You don't want to be working on the machine if you have to with the power on, okay? Always a good idea to unplug the machine when you're doing that stuff. If you're changing a bit out and it's not doing anything safe, Usually this tool is okay not to do that, but if you really want to be super safe, unplug the tool, have the power turned off when you're doing that. Have a second emergency override that kills all power. Always a good idea. Number 13. Sorry. Yeah. Don't touch the drill bit or cuttings. The little shavings, splinters, you don't want that in your hand. Especially if you're working with metal. Oh man. Metal splinters, oh that's really bad. Those suck to get out of your fingertips. So yeah, stay away from that stuff. You can use a brush to clean up. I usually keep a brush somewhere near the drill press in my shop. If you don't have one in your shop, you want to go get a brush before you start working so you can wipe all the shavings off the table with a brush. Don't ever use your hand to wipe all that stuff. The drill bit and cuttings are hot immediately after they're drilled, and they could also burn your hand. So you also don't want to touch them like wood. If you've got a lot of friction and stuff like that, they could be very, very hot and burn. Especially the metal ones. But drill bits, number 14. Small drill bits should be run at a higher speed than large drill bits. So you saw how fast this is turning. Okay? This is currently set up for a small drill bit. I was drilling holes that were only a ½ inch in diameter. So we'll have to change this before we use it. The last question says, always check that the table and head of the drill press are securely locked in place before operating. This thing should not be moving. This thing should not be going up and down. Everything should be secure and locked. The table's not moving. This is clamped down or bolted in place. Everything needs to be tightly secured. You do not want things moving on you when you start using the tool, and moving parts contact other moving things. That's bad. So do a double check. Do a quick shake test on everything. If you need to go and just, quickly little check on things like this has got some rattle. Why does it have rattle? Well, this is supposed to be a little bit loose. If you tighten it, that's a different tool. But, check everything. Like if it's got any more rattle than it's supposed to have, any more slack, any more play, then do something about it. If you're not sure, get someone who knows. Come check with me or someone else to verify that it's good to go and safe. All right. Before we get going and I demonstrate how to properly drill the holes in this, make sure you fill out all the questions, answer it, turn it in online, and you'll have to show it to me in order to get your chuck key and approval to use the machine. As soon as you get that, now it's time to actually drill the holes out in your part. We're going to drill the holes in the middle section first. And the reason I want to do the middle first is because you've done all this work, hopefully designing whatever your pathway is for your sound, and you want to make sure these are accurate, and we'll make the front match whatever you have in the middle. So, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to open up the chuck. I want to get these little fingers to go all the way up inside, and insert this bit. Almost there, there we go. And we're going to tighten it up by hand. Okay, you make sure that it's actually centered and it's not just stuck to the side, because you don't want it to wobble as it's in there. You want it to actually rotate. Okay, so that's done. Now, when I tighten this thing up, what I want to do is I want to tighten the chuck from 3 different locations. I do not want to tighten it from just one. You want to make sure that it's properly tightened all the way around. Put that chuck key out of the way so we're safe. And then this is ready to go. So then the next thing I need to do is I need to verify that I can get the right spot on my part. You'll see here, this does not quite drill deep enough. I have 2 options. I can lower the head of the drill press down, or I can try and move the bit out. Well, I probably have enough room where I can just drop that bit out. So what I'm going to do, let's drop this all the way down. I'm going to use the quill lock. Lock this in place. Let's see how far down I actually need to go. So let me loosen this back up. Let's see. To loosen it, you only need to use one spot. That's all the way down right there. Let's see how much bit we have left. From there. Oh, that's barely grabbing it. So that's not enough to hold on to this thing. You need to be at least, let's say, a ½ inch or so of grab. So I will have to lower the tool head down a little bit. You want to make sure you got a good firm grab. don't want anything coming loose on you. So tighten that back up in there. If I'm going to lower it, I don't want to have to go too far, so let me lower it till we're about to this distance. You can see where that lock comes in handy. Okay, so now with this particular tool, there's a couple of bolts in the back here that I loosen. That was pretty tight. It's about a 23 mil, and then you need to use the provided wrench that comes with the drill press. It should be on the base of it somewhere if you're doing an adjustment like that to this particular type of machine. There's a lever over here. We then will crank until the drill bit comes down to the table. And the reason we're going to the table and not the part is, remember, we've got to drill all the way through our part. Okay, so that would be a good height. Just make sure that it comes up high enough that I've got clearance. That works great. I'm not going to go down any lower than that. If you've got a center line on your table, you can center this thing. I don't, doesn't really matter. So let me tighten the head up there. There's 2 bolts to snug up. For some of you guys, instead of moving the head of the machine on the other style drill press, you're going to move the table. And the table will move up and down. This particular table does not move up and down because this table has the ability to move in and out, back and forth, using these little wheels very precisely. So it's got a different application. That being said, let's use that application to find the center of the hole. So I'm going to bring my bit down till it's just about to touch, but not quite, and I'm going to lock it in place here so I don't have to hold this. Then what I'm going to do with this style of drill press is I'm going to rotate the table and move it until we find the center of the bit with this fence here. So I need to be able to perfectly touch center. Got it from this angle. I actually want to go back just in there a little bit. That looks pretty good. Okay, so if that is where I want to drill, I'm going to hold that in place. And then there's a couple things you can do with this. I'm actually going to mark the right spot and the left spot. Now, something you can do that's even better than marking is you can put a clamp. I'll show you. If you wanted to get this exactly the same on both parts, and both of your pieces were the exact same size to start, that's really important. You could put a clamp here. And this would be called a stop block. And this block of wood then allows us to take the first piece, which is our middle piece, put it in here, push it up to the block, the stop block, and it'll stop it in just the right spot. Then you take your next piece, which is the front piece, and to do this hole, push it over against the block, and they're identical. So that the setup for the first one and the setup for the second one are going to be in the same spot and your holes line up perfectly. But again, in order for that to work, you've got to make sure your pieces are the same to start with. This needs to be flush on all sides, top and bottom. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get mine clamped in here. This is how I'm going to use it. I'm going to put this clamp as close to the center as I can get it, just because give me a little more strength that way. Do a little shake test on my block. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. That's good. I'm going to start this thing up and I'm going to drill the first hole. Now notice when I drill, I don't just plow through this thing. I'm not going to pull hard and just pull that bit all the way down in through the wood. I'm going to come in a little bit. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to let the bit cool off. Friction is the worst thing you could possibly do to a sharp edge. you want to keep the metal nice and cool. So you've got to let it cool off just a little bit. If you just keep going, then you'll heat up the temper of the steel and ruin it, and you'll dull the edge. So here we go. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses on before you use the machine. Good. Now I'm looking at my chips. I just saw a chip that was a slightly different color, so I'm just starting to pop through. Oops. I don't want to go any deeper than I have to. I don't want to ruin my sacrificial table so I can use it for other projects without having to make a new one. So I barely drilled into it. But you do want to drill into it enough that you don't have a lot of tear out on the back side of this thing. So let me get my brush. I do not want to use a hand for this. You can also use a blower, okay? I would suggest having a dustpan nearby or something else. You can bring your trash can right up to this and just brush all your chips right into the can. Okay, if you have a little blower, you can blow all that stuff away, but you're going to need to get everything away from the fence. You don't want any wood chips stuck in there that are going to stop this from going into the same spot. If there's a little chip stuck in there, the hole won't register in exactly the right location. So let's cut the next one. Same method. A little shake test, make sure that we're where we want to be. I'm going to check from 2 angles. Everything looks tight. I'm checking the gap here between the fence and my piece of wood. I want to make sure that that's tight. Okay, let's do it. Safety glasses are on. Now I could have easily drilled that out straight through in one shot. The machine will do it, but it's not good for the bit, so you really want to take your time so you get a lot of uses out of the bit. Alright, so I am now done with this setup because I have drilled out the front panel and the back panel, and when you put them together, those holes should be in the nice same spot. Okay? I'm going to reset this machine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out the other side the exact same way. I can just flip them over now and do them the same way we just did the first ones. Indexed. Secure. Glasses check. Straight to the trash can. Okie doke. Excellent. Nicely lined up. I'm liking it. Almost like McDonald's. I'm loving it. So, as soon as you get these two pieces, we got to cut out this little section right here. And then we got to use a scroll saw to cut out all this stuff here and then this area down to the phone. So we'll get this done with the next tool, which is the scroll saw, which means we got to get the scroll saw test out of the way. So we'll get that done next time on the next video. We'll see you back then. Maybe we just did the first one. So now you understand how to use the drill press and set it up. When you're done, clean everything up and you'll be good to go.